many of the issues in our city are structural and were caused by decades and centuries of segregationist public policies, and seeing students who are left at a tremendous disadvantage because of the way this city has been shaped through these policies. That's why I say that our education system here in Baltimore is inconsistent. There are some pockets of excellence. There are several schools in the district that I represent that are really knocking it out of the park for kids. One, Hampstead Hill Academy, which is actually a 5-star rated school, one of the best in the state, incredibly diverse, and just a phenomenal principal and a great staff. And then we have some other schools that really struggle. A lot of it to do with the physical conditions of the buildings. We have the oldest schools in the state of Maryland. There's been tremendous underfunding and disinvestment from capital projects. Since 2012, Dr. Sanalises, who's the school CEO, says that we have been shortchanged by about $290 million per year from the state of Maryland. And she didn't make that number up. That's what the Department of Legislative Services in Annapolis has said. And the reason is that during the recession, they didn't adjust their formula for inflation. Last year, when during the winter, all the boilers burst simultaneously, and you saw these images of kids in coats, freezing cold in the middle of their classrooms, and we didn't have any heat. We didn't have any air conditioning. You can't drink from any of the water fountains because they're contaminated by lead. So I would say that the school I taught in, despite having some really good educators, physically resembled a prison. And I think when a school looks like a jail, it sends a very clear message to kids about what their worth is. The state of Maryland has a constitutional obligation to provide an adequate education to every child in our state, and I would say that we are failing to live up to that currently. Sure. So the Kirwin Commission is a body of people that were tasked with creating recommendations to rewrite Maryland's fair student funding formula, as well as determine sort of what priorities our schools in this state should have. What I fundamentally believe, and what I think research and data has proven, is when young people have opportunities, when they're learning, when they're growing, and when they're working and getting paid, they tend to not get in trouble. And then finally, just making sure that the city of Baltimore is doing everything it can, that we can, to provide an excellent education to our kids. So that means advocating in Annapolis around Kirwin. That means fighting tooth and nail for more funding for our schools from the city budget. And it also means holding our schools accountable to providing good outcomes to kids. So as a city councilman, you're somewhat limited in what you can actually do vis-a-vis our schools, right? What tends to happen in a city like Baltimore is, again, you have a very segregated population, and so the voices that often get heard tend to be those who have more money and more access and have been taught again and again and again that government is here for you. So a lot of my work has been trying to engage populations that have been traditionally underserved. One of the challenges we have is we lose a lot of middle-class families when they start having kids because of our public schools. And I think if we had really high-quality early childhood education, free pre-kindergarten for everybody, I bet you we could retain a lot of those middle-class families as well. And so if we want a more integrated, better school system, universal pre-kindergarten, high-quality Judy centers, all the rest is where I would start. A lot of the research and the data will tell you that high quality universal pre-K starting at age 3 has, more than almost any other intervention, a profound impact on learning, particularly for children from low-income families, right? So you think about kids who, there's this whole word gap that they talk about, that if you're from a low-income family, you speak, or you've been spoken to, I think it's like 200,000 less words than if you're from a middle or upper class family, whether you're in Prince George's County, Montgomery County, Carroll County, Baltimore City, wherever. And so part of what the Kirwin Commission is attempting to do is to equalize and provide more support and more funding for those jurisdictions and those schools that have a less well-off population of students and families.